Hello and welcome to a show hosted by myself, Scorpio Moon, and my good friend, Cali Guy.
What's going on, Scorp?
Cali Guy, I just want to start this whole thing by saying thank you for helping to keep me connected to the nerdy geek world. There's been so many times where I've been so busy working and sleeping that I just haven't had time for any of this kind of crap, but every time I log on to Facebook, like the first thing I see is the Cali Guy group, which I know is technically secret, but it's like the first thing I see on Facebook, and like that's where I stay involved in all the nerd arguments and all the stupid crap.
Yeah, I'm glad that actually the group ain't secret. And sometimes it goes secret, then sometimes it goes public. So it is what it is on that. So yeah, we try to keep up on the good news and stuff like that. So all the comic book news that's going on and movie news. So that's basically what we do on that in the group and in my fan page.
All
So
right,
that's
so you and I were shooting the shit for a minute, and I think we gotta get this out of the way first.
mhm.
What's with the beef?
Ain't no beef.
No, seriously, man. Like the arguments with the. I mean, I don't even know these people you guys get involved with anymore. Like, I remember HR and Movie World a little bit, but it's like you guys just. You're constantly involved in beefs and arguments with someone. I just want to ask, why?
I don't. I'm not to be honest with you. I don't beef. I don't beef. I mean, here's the thing with beefing, with internet beefing. I don't beef. Again, um, these be just conversations of and different things going on. But I know what you're saying. But no, I don't beef. I don't take. You know me. I don't take internet beef serious anyway. So I don't really beef. Um, I do jokes, but I don't beef. Now, that's something you have to talk to Jackal about, but I don't beef.
Gotta talk. You're directing me to Jackal to talk about the beef. So,
I don't
so,
beef. You
you,
don't
so
see
so
me.
you're basically admitting that it's like half the reason you're involved in any of this crap is it's just because you're backing up a friend. It's like it's the same reason that like all the world wars. It's like one country attacks another country and another country's got their back, and that's why they go to war with them. Like, like that's
Nah.
basically what you're saying. It's like someone attacks Jackal, and you're friends with Jackal, so you attack them because they attack Jackal.
No. I don't take nobody for Jackal. No. When Jackal gets attacked, basically, what's a good word for it? When Jackal gets attacked, or if it was you or anybody that gets attacked in a beef, like if you come to me and you get attacked by some troll, let's just say it was you, you get attacked by a troll, but it doesn't technically have something to do with me, then I may make a comment as a friend to you. So,
Okay.
like if a troll for some reason makes a video or they start trolling you or messing with you, but he's like, "Hey, Cali guy, this person is saying this," then I'll comment on it, but I'm not actually participating. I don't do beef. You ever see me do no beefs? You ever see me do videos and just go out there? Now I've had my own share of beefs in the past before I knew you guys, before I started being on PSN and talking to you guys. I've had online beefs, but not recently where you guys could see it and all that. So no, I
So
haven't been.
so if someone made a video and the video was titled "Scorpio Moon is a giant dick sucking faggot," like would you respond to that and say like, "No,
No,
he's not,"
no. I
or would
mean,
you just leave it alone?
if you ask me, but what's the difference? Even if I do respond to it, I could respond to it and I could say, "Hey, Scorp is not like this," but then all they're gonna do is then they're gonna go at it with you even more so and me. So it depends on the circumstance of that. I mean, because me, and you, we're internet people, so we're always gonna have trolls anyway. You do shows. I've done shows. You do videos and shows. I know you and Johnny do the X-Men show. So I know you guys have. I've been in your chats. I've been in the PSA chat. You have trolls in that chat. So you may say something that rubs the troll up wrong way, and they may start just attacking you. So every troll that comes out, you're not gonna be able to just respond to every little thing that troll says. But no, I agree with you. I don't really care for internet beef either, unless it's kind of short.
Man, I don't barely respond to any fucking trolls. I don't care. I mean,
I don't either.
like, I mean,
I
if,
don't.
if someone gives me a realistic argument, like, I'll have fun with it. But I mean, if someone's just like trolling me for the sake of trolling me, I'm not gonna like value that with a response. Like, I don't care.
But that's what they want you to do. That's what the trolls want you to do. They want you to do. That's why they call them trolls. Trolls, well, I'm gonna tell you this. There's two kinds of people when you're on the internet anyway. When you're in this game, you have trolls and you have YouTubers. So those are two different individuals. You have
Aren't they kind of synonymous? I mean, aren't most YouTubers kind of trolls?
nah, it depends. If a YouTuber does a video and you know their like my identity is known. I know you use another name for yourself, but I know my name is known. Some
Well,
other
I mean, no, like my YouTube is just like Scorpio Moon. Like it's not really hidden.
Well, yeah, true, and you're out there too. Okay, so we're both out there. So, like, if me and you do videos and radio shows, we're not technically trolls though. So, like, if you got into it with another YouTuber per se, that's not really that's just a YouTube beef maybe. But now a troll is a faceless person. A troll is a person whose identity you just don't know. You don't know their identity. You don't know nothing about them, but they're talking shit. So that's a troll right there. That's why in a way, because I've had troll enemies too. When I used to do YouTube videos before I retired from YouTube a while back, they would trash me on my page, also leave a lot of comments and fight my videos down. But I never really validated trolls per se. But when you now YouTuber is really different because you know their identity. You can respond to them. You can say certain things to them. Or
Well, yeah, because now Google is tied to YouTube and it's tied to your Facebook, and it's like you comment on any one of those things, and you can tie it back to the person.
exactly, exactly. So that's different than trolling. But yeah, YouTube beef and trolls are two different things. All trolls' job is to do is to instigate shit. See, this is the thing for anybody that's on YouTube or social media. Trolls are good at manipulating shit. That's why I always say you don't validate trolls
No,
because
no. I disagree a little bit. Trolls aren't good at fucking anything. I mean, trolls are just fucking assholes. I mean, that's
that's
all that
true.
is. Like, troll is another word for asshole. I mean, like, I don't normally give them even the benefit of the doubt. Sometimes they're amusing, and I know that amongst our group of friends, we pay way too much attention to them than we should.
True. That is true. Well, I'm gonna tell you this. I don't. I tell you for me from Cali Guy, I don't listen to trolls though. I don't listen to trolls per se. When it comes to trolls, I can't speak for anybody else. But when it comes to trolls, I because trolls start shit. You know when
All
trolls
right,
they
well then, given that that's your opinion, let's not pay attention to trolls, and let's just keep going on with what we planned on doing. Like
okay.
I wanted to go through this conversation we had here first of all,
Hmm.
just to, like catch up to where we were. Like one of the first things we talked about, and I know it's like way too topical, but it's like the fucking Super Bowl. It's like the Seahawks and the Patriots. And and I said on the chat that all I cared about was Katy Perry during the
Yes.
halftime show.
You did say that. Yeah, you said that. You know, only thing about the Super Bowl, I said, well, I know we're gonna get to the comic book part real quick, but I said about the Super Bowl is that only thing that's gonna be. I don't really care about neither team to be honest with you. It's not my team, but um, Seahawks is okay, you know, at best. I like Marshawn Lynch, but the thing is, it's probably gonna be the trailer. Trailer's gonna be weak. I think that's the thing. The geeky stuff I know you want to get to is the trailers. You know, I don't. I seen Terminator. Don't really care about that. I think
Ooh, yeah, Genesis was ugly.
yeah, so I don't care about Terminator. Already seen that. You know, Avengers. I think we've seen like four trailers for Avengers. You know,
I
I
don't need
do.
to see Avengers because I'm going to the movie anyway. I don't care about the trailer. I'm seeing the movie. It's already been determined. When the Avengers movie comes out, I'm going to see it. I don't want to see the trailer because I don't care. Like I already know I'm going to the movie.
Exactly,
It's not
and
even a
we're all
question.
going to see that. So we've seen like five trailers to Avengers. So you know, I could just write that one off. You know what I want to see more of though, to be honest with you, is Ant-Man. I would not mind seeing a hardcore Ant-Man trailer. You know, where it's more stuff with Ant-Man. So that's one thing I would mind really looking at is a hardcore
You see,
Ant-Man.
that's where I just don't care. It's just gonna be another fucking comic perverted into a TV show or movie. Like I just don't care. Like I'm like Avengers. Yeah, I know I'm gonna see it. Ant Man. I'm probably gonna see it eventually. But I mean, it's like so what? They're gonna pervert another comic book into a movie. Like I'll see it eventually, probably. Like I'm not that psyched about the trailer. I mean, am I less of a nerd because I don't care?
Not somebody that you know what man. That's an argument. If you go back to the roundtable shows and your co-host Johnny Alpha has argue with me down. I've given up that argument when it came to anime. Johnny
Wait,
Alpha.
hold on a second. Before you continue, when was the last time you talked to Johnny Alpha? I thought you guys were on the outs. Like you guys don't talk anymore.
I talked to Johnny. I did a show. I was on the PSN show a couple of weeks ago, or like a month ago, with Johnny. I talked to Johnny on Skype and on I was on the round table with him.
Okay,
We,
I just came back to the round table about 2, maybe 3 weeks ago.
yeah, yeah. This is before you came back. I was a guest appearance on there because we was talking about like different comic book movies and agents and shit. No, I was talking to him. So no, I was talking to him. But no, I remember being your co-host like 2 years ago when
Well, yeah,
they.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I mean, don't get me wrong. Johnny Alpha is my good fucking friend. I mean, the All About X-Men comics podcast is kind of dead right now. But like we still do Spike the Punches and like little mini podcasts every now and then, like,
Cool.
and we still talk all the time. Like we're still good friends. But I mean, I just thought you and Johnny Alpha were like kind of enemies or some
No,
shit. Like,
no, no, we're not enemies. No, 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 no. We're not enemies. But no, you know what? We trade barbs on comic book stuff. We have different visions when it comes to comic book stuff. So that's the thing. But no, I remember reading him at a debate actually on, and he could tell you this about Ant Man about 2 years ago because I was actually against the Ant Man movie because they perverted the comic books. He said, "There, Cali Guy, you need to stop." Of having this fanboy reaction to Ant Man because I was pissed that they didn't make Hank Pym the creator of Ultron. So that was like before Ultron was really filmed and we knew a plot. So and I was like, well, why did they change the comic book and they alter it in the film? So I mean, that's I know it's gonna go into the topic we're gonna talk about
yeah, but
shortly.
no, like basically you wanted fundamentalist shit.
No, I'm
Like,
not being fundamentalist. No, no, no. See, here was the thing. I don't mind changes. See, this is the thing people understand. Like a lot of people that follow California Guy. I know people think I want the books and the movies to be identical. That's not what I'm saying. This is the rule I've always had. If anybody listens to my shows, 50-50. I always say 50% general audience, let it make sense. 50% a comic book movie for the comic book fans. I've always had that rule when it comes to comic book films and animation. Not really animation per se, because animation sometimes can come closer to the comic books, but I always say 50-50. Like, for example, Arrow. Arrow, even though, and I love Green Arrow. Green Arrow is one of my favorite characters, but they perverted the shit out of the Arrow show. I mean, Green Arrow. They perverted it hardcore, but
alright, so you don't like the CW show Arrow?
I, I do love it. No, I love the show, but it was smart how they did it. I love how they reimagined Green Arrow in that show. I love Green Arrow show. A lot of people have hated the show. I actually supported Arrow show kind of the beginning, so I actually love the show. Each season gets stronger as they go, and I love how they reimagine Green Arrow. Now it's nothing like the comic books. No, it's not. You don't have the gold beard. He's
Well,
not.
well, to be fair, the comic books have gotten pretty shitty lately.
It was garbage. Don't
I
get me
mean,
started on that. Don't get.
like they had Lemire on the comic books for a little bit, and they did a whole new thing where I mean, like Green Arrow, he's gone through different phases throughout the years. Like there's always been different interpretations of how Green Arrow ended up on the island and how he ended up being an archer. But they've got this new thing in the comics where his father predestined him to become an archer.
That's TV show shit.
Yeah.
That's,
Oh
that's
no, that's in the comics too. Like that's
That's
the
new. Yeah, that's new though. But that's you do know it's from the TV show because we all know that Arrow. In fact, I've been reading Arrow for almost 20, 15, 60 years, and that's never even if that's laughable. That's
well,
never
I mean, Arrow has had some pretty fucked up like origins in the past. Like there are continuities where Green Arrow's origin is tied to like White China, for example.
Yeah, it is. That's true. That's true.
Like there's origins where it relates to that. Like the Arrows had a lot of different origins over the past 50 years. But I would never look to the TV show as like the canon for it.
No,
I know canon is a fucked up word because canon technically like canon relates to like religion.
true, true.
Like Green Arrow is not a religion. It's a fucking comic book, not Jesus Christ.
People, but a lot of people use those terms uh, for
Interchangeably, yeah.
yeah, they use them, but you're right. You know what this Arrow show is? What they did though, and you're familiar with this. I'm gonna go old school. They used a lot of Mike Grell's ideals for the TV show and a little bit of Judd Reineck's
Well, I
version.
mean, well, they wanted to. Like they wanted to eat their cake and eat it too. if that makes any sense. Like they wanted everything. Like they just wanted to fucking take this. They just wanted to do whatever they could with the character.
But it's working. It's actually
Well,
working
I
because
mean, it's working because it's a CW show. What do you expect? I mean,
true.
I know I'm stumbling over my words here, but I mean, it's not the end of the world. Like, it's just a stupid show on TV, and that's where DC is kind of right in this way. Like, I mean, they don't want to copy Marvel. They don't want to be seen that way, so they want to do something different. And in that respect, as far as doing something different than Marvel, I guess they kind of have.
Well, like I said, this is the thing. This is what we get the online, people, social media and comic book websites kind of misconstrued this. Some changes, and I get some changes is good when it comes to certain characters. I agree with you. Green Arrow has went through a lot of retones and reboots over the years in his backstory. But it fit the, like you said, the tone for the CW audience. I will give that show that it fits the tone of that. It has this Dawson Creek ish type element
Dawson's
going
Creek
on
is.
with the show. That part I can agree. But the only cool thing about Arrow, though, I will say, is the way they've made him is kind of hardcore. He is different from his comic book counterpart. I give that part that,
Well, I
like I
mean,
said,
not always. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I mean, different is a little bit of a point of view. I mean, there's been plenty of comics where he's an asshole and he's a killer.
yeah.
I mean, that's not. I mean, you can find
No, it's my
comics that
grill.
back that up. Like
That's my
it's
grill. No, no, no. I agree with you. That's my grill. Well, here's the thing. They took from my grill. I don't know if I haven't read all of my grills either. So I'm one of them people. I'm not gonna sit here and lie like some comic book podcasters do. They say they read every damn issue. I have not read all of my grills issues. I'm familiar with like a few issues here and there that his version of Green Arrow. See, the version of Green Arrow that I always was reading was like when I got into Green Arrow, I got into him doing Zero Hour. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. I know you are, Scorp, because you was around back then.
that's a little bit late in the game actually. You talk about it being back then, but I mean,
But I'm
uh,
talking about. Let me give you an origin for me real quick when it comes to Green Arrow.
oh yeah, please do your thing.
Yeah, see, when I got into Green Arrow, it was during the time of Zero Hour when the character killed Hal Jordan, and then from that point on, his comic books were getting canceled. So I got into Connor, his son. His son had took over, so I was into those books for years at a time. And then I remember when they bought Green Arrow back to life, 'cause it was dead back then when I started reading him. So I actually read Green Arrow when they brought him back, the return of Oliver Queen, and then they had Kevin Smith. That was when I really got into the character. So I was reading Green Arrow back in the '90s, and then I started reading him more so when Kevin Smith revived him. And then from that point on, I was reading his books. So I was reading Oliver Queen in those issues. And as time went on, I read certain back issues where he was in the Justice League and those kind of books. So I wasn't familiar. And then Joe Reiner, which was a great writer when it came to Green Arrow, that's when I really started to take to the character, which some of that basis they're using in the TV show, by the way, too. But the real dark, violent Green Arrow, I have not read all those. I only read a few of those. I don't know if you read them, so I can't really speak on the how. I know what you're talking about. I am familiar with a darker Green Arrow, though. I am familiar with what you're talking about. Where he was killing people, and he had what's his name, Black Canary. I've heard and different things about it from different fans, but I've never read it, so I do know what you're talking about.
So I mean, yeah, so it exists, and I mean, I'm kind of iffy on it, but the problem is that I just don't care. I mean, I've always been more of a Marvel guy, and
Yeah,
even
I
be
know that.
and even beyond that, like I mean, all I do is fucking work and sleep. Like, I do not have time for like a million fucking comic book based fucking TV shows. Like, they've got the Arrow, they've got the Flash, they've
Hmm.
got Agent fucking Peggy Carter. Like, they got Agents of Shield. Like I just do not have time for all this shit. I mean I just fucking don't. I'm sorry. I mean like, I'm sure a lot of it's pretty good, but like I mean I just don't have time for it. So I mean I'm glad you do because I like to hear about it and I try and watch an episode every now and then. I mean it doesn't do for me like what I wish it would, like based on other things I've seen before, but I mean I want to keep moving on with what we had planned for this show
Okay.
here.
Okay.
There was other things we was gonna talk about.
Yeah, it was the the comic books being reboot. Actually, it was the Marvel.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, the reboot and the rechanges. It's like
yes.
there's so many things going on right now. Like I mean, there's a lot of really fringe Marvel comics that are pretty good.
Hmm.
Like Black Widow has a comic now. Elektra has a comic now. Miss Marvel is a Muslim girl who has a comic now. Ghost Rider is like a Latin kid on a motorcycle. Like there's a lot of like really fringe Marvel comics that are pretty good right now. But I kind of wonder if Marvel's taking it a little too far. I mean, like, I mean, and here's my problem. Like, back in the day, like, back in the 60s and shit, like, all the characters were white dudes.
Yes.
And I'm pale skinned. Like, I mean, I'm not arguing against it or something. I'm just saying it's like back in the day, that is what was easier to sell. That's what they based all the characters on. And nowadays, they're taking more liberties with that, and they're changing the race, and they're changing the gender of characters. And sometimes it kind of meshes with the movies, like where you have like Samuel L. Nick Fury.
Yes.
And sometimes it really doesn't fucking matter as much. But I mean, I just kind of wonder if, I mean, how much of that is really about like trying to tell a good story, and how much of that is just lip service.
A little bit of both, and I'm African American, and I've argued on behalf of. I can see the point of view of both fan base. Again, when it comes to comic books and these tweaks and changes. Yes, you're right. Comic books have always been, old boys club. And I could even say predating Marvel with DC and Golden Age books. But here's the thing with that, them making the changes. I don't know. I just think they're trying to show diversity, if that makes sense. With the Miss Marvel thing being Indian, well, Miss Marvel in itself, she that was
Muslim.
it,
Miss Marvel is a Muslim American.
a Muslim American. I'm sorry. And here's the thing with Miss Marvel, though. She was already kind of an innovative character anyway, back in the 70s. She was like a first major female for Marvel to.
Well, yeah, no one gave a fuck about a female character back then, let
Nah, no,
alone a fucking Muslim American one.
yeah. But you know what's so funny about that? All they have to say is this: they don't really need to alter the characters. Why don't they just create new characters? That's always been my argument. Instead of
Well,
changing it.
because no one's gonna buy them.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
true.
like, no one's gonna buy them. Like, the reason they have an all-female Ghostbusters right now is because they want the name recognition.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, yeah, that is true. Yeah, the changes. Yeah, and I mean, it's a good thing. I'm not mad at that because you've seen the controversy with the Black Johnny Storm. You've seen the controversy with Black Kingpin. If it doesn't involve race, like Samuel L., like you mentioned earlier, Samuel L's Nick Fury sold. He sold well on the screen, and I remember the Ultimate Nick Fury, by the way, before they even thought about Avenger movies, and I thought it was a cool idea to reimagine him, as a good. He was just a good character anyway. I mean, Nick Fury, come on, Scrub, let's be real. You're a major Marvel person.
Well, I
Nick
mean,
Fury,
before you dive into that, I mean, I want to say, as a major Marvel person, like, a lot of my history goes back to like, I'm a big fan of like mainstream characters. Like,
mhm,
Wolverine was always friends with White Nick Fury.
yes,
Like the White Nick Fury character, like they were fucking like they were fucking tied. Like White Nick Fury showed Wolverine like where his family was buried. Like they're really fucking close. So like to change it to Black Nick Fury, I mean, I'm not opposed to that based on race because I don't give a fuck. But to change that character, that does change a lot about a character that I cared for a lot.
you're right. Let me piggyback off of that. You're absolutely right because changing Nick Fury. Well, they shouldn't do it in the 616 universe anyway. The regular mainstream. I didn't mind Nick Fury being black in that Ultimate verse because that was basically a reimagining of that particular universe. But
And that
yet,
was before the movies came
that's
out, by the
before the
way,
movies, yeah. But just
when they
because the
first did
movies
that.
sell, don't mean you change the. I agree with you on that because it don't make sense. Because in the comic books, we all know this. In the comic book lore, Nick Fury was in World War II. And I know a lot of fans don't know that. A lot of I
Yeah,
hate to say it.
he's a super soldier like Captain America.
Exactly. A
He's
lot of
got the
people,
serum that keeps him alive
the
longer than
affinity
anybody else.
formula. Yes, he has that affinity formula. So yes, Nick Fury people was a member of the founding member of the Howling Commandos, actually. And so it makes sense in that history that Nick Fury stays white because he was in the 40s. And so, You couldn't have a black man in the 1940s leading World War II elite.
No, because it's not historically accurate whatsoever.
Exactly. So that's the thing. You can't. That's why it's. But you notice though in the movies though, in a way. Now I will say this: the way the movie and I want to step on the toes here with Marvel fans here, but the movies gave it an out though with Nick Fury and Baron Strucker, where they kind of replaced them with Captain America replaced Nick Fury in First Avenger, and Red Skull replaced Baron Strucker with the founding members of Hydra. Now there was no Hydra.
That's the fucking thing. That's the fucking thing.
Yeah,
The movies, they did a good job.
yeah, I give them that. That was perfect.
I mean, like whatever the movies changed, what the movies changed, they did a good job of doing it. But it's like they changed the comics because of the movies, and I feel like that's heading in the wrong direction.
That's the issue I have too. And that's what me and you have an agreement on. I don't think that the comics should be touched based on the movies. I think that they should keep it. They should still keep the books the same way, but kind of because Marvel did a good job of doing that. By the way, they always did a good job of maintaining their storylines and keeping it in good continuity.
I mean,
Versus
they used to.
they used to,
They
yeah, they
used to.
used to, yeah. So you will always have like they always have the Fantastic Four. That was your baseline leading into the Silver Age of Heroes. But then they would kind of retone a little bit, but not as much. They wouldn't really touch it. But now they want to mess it up because I think that they think they could gain a new fan base. They think they could gain a hardcore movie fan base to read their books, and it's too convoluted. They don't want to go to back issues like we had to do when we were younger. So they're trying to make it easier by saying, okay, we're going to simplify this like the movies, let it look identical, which I called this out years ago that Disney was going to do this anyway. So I don't know why people are so shocked that Marvel Comics was going to do it. I said this when they first bought it. So I find it laughable that everybody's shocked. I told many comic fans that this is okay, this is going to be bad for your books that you read. They're going to actually change it, and they're doing it. Like making Peggy Carter the founding member of Shield is really asinine. That's in the comics. That's stupid because it doesn't.
Yeah.
It makes sense in the movie verse, but not really in the comic book universe.
And
So
that's I mean, like reimagining it is one thing, because I mean, and this is one of the points I made on the chat room that I wanted to like redo, like on a show. It's like back in like the 50s and the 60s, like doing that kind of thing, that would never fly.
no,
So redoing it nowadays, it's like okay, you've got a second chance to do it that way and make it seem okay, and yeah, like maybe it works when you redo it, but that's just not the fucking way it went.
no,
and
no.
and it's just weird and awkward to redo it that way, and it's almost kind of insulting. Like it's almost like putting down the struggle to pretend that the struggle didn't exist.
hmm I agree with that. I can't help but agree. And it's not the tone, and not only just style, but that wasn't the tone that Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, many artists and writers, Steve Englehart, all these different writers and artists, all up to the David Michael Byron Bendis, all these different writers. That wasn't the tones that they set, and it just knocks off their work just for film, because that's what the screenwriters for film set up, not the comic book writers. That's what I try to get across to a lot of fanboys and a lot of general audience people. That's not the tone that these writers and artists, indie artists, set for these characters. They create these different histories. Yes, some of it was convoluted. That's comic books. People don't understand. Comic books were supposed to be confusing. And if it confused you, you go back and read back issues. You don't start this altering stuff just for film reasons so that it can make sense. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
just have a new number one issue every month.
That's it. That's all it is. That's why I stopped reading. But I stopped reading Marvel though. I ain't gonna lie. I stopped reading Marvel years back. Sometimes I would dip into new Marvel because I was like, I was a major Marvel person, like DC, and I would buy their books. But I stopped kind of getting into it. The last good Marvel story I read was the Secret Warriors. I bought the Ominous edition
You mean
last
like the
year.
third version,
Yeah,
like
the
a couple
third
years
version.
ago?
The last version that they had with Nick Fury with the Secret Wars. That was a pretty good. That was the last major Marvel arc that I read. I read all 30 issues, and that was a very good, strong story for Marvel. I think it tied into some other storylines too, but that was the last good story I read from really them. But after that part, I don't read new Marvel no more anyway. I
Yeah,
know they have.
I can't do it again, man. I mean, fucking like the whole thing going off Marvel now is and I hate to say it, but it's like Rick Remender and the whole Uncanny Avengers and the action shit. Like it's weird because and Johnny has talked about this a lot. Like fucking Uncanny Avengers almost felt like an Elseworlds kind of tale. It was almost kind of like Avengers plus X-Men in a different universe. Like with Rick Remender, like, playing his own alternate thing, but all of a sudden it's coming to the main universe with Red Onslaught and all this shit. And and I mean, you thought that shook it up a little bit. And I mean, and by shook it up a little bit, I mean, I complained about this shit. Like, fucking Sabretooth is an Avenger now.
That's stupid.
Yeah, it's so fucking dumb. It's like, because Wolverine is dead, they've got to give every other character who has Logan envy like more pages than they deserve. And now Sabretooth is a good guy again. And they already had Sabretooth as a good guy before, and Wolverine put a fucking bone claw through his fucking brain in Wolverine 90 because
Wow.
Sabretooth as an X-Men doesn't fucking work. But now Sabretooth is an Avenger because of Axis, and Axis inverts you and makes good people bad and bad people good, and that's why you have Tony Stark is now a bad guy, and he's got a new armor based on the Carnage symbiote. And that's another thing that really got me. They made Carnage a good guy.
I don't get Marvel, but that's why I stopped reading them. Because I stopped reading Marvel, like I said, a few years back. So I don't, you know what? That's foreign to me. Like I said, I dip into some issues here and there, but I don't read Marvel no more. Because Marvel, like DC, has really, really been really corporate. So it's just that I stopped reading them. I've been disappointed with Marvel anyway for at least the last 8 years of some of the storylines that they've written. Some things they've done good, like Secret Invasion, pretty decent. Civil War was pretty decent. Some of their follow ups, I just didn't follow, their solo issues. It's just a lot of stuff I haven't read, so I have to play catch up probably in the coming months.
No,
But
it's just don't, man. Don't even read it. It's not worth your money. It's not worth your time. Fucking comic books lately have just gone. I mean, you talk about jumping the shark. They've gone beyond jumping the shark. I mean, like, just like read Image comics, read Dark Horse comics, read Boom Studios comics, like Marvel and DC, like let them fight to the death and let them kill each other. As far as I'm concerned.
well, I called it though with Marvel though. I've called it people that I knew years back at the comic shops and other people I knew. They said that I was right there. Marvel was going. I seen the danger of Marvel really like going into this zone anyway, as far back score with Civil War, but way back then in Age of Ultron, the comics, I've seen this going into that zone for years. I've been calling it because I tried to give Marvel a chance throughout the years, and I was like, "What the hell are you doing?" So I was already, you know what? I'm gonna tell you my first disappointment with Marvel too was House of M. Back when they did that storyline, I was disappointed
No
from.
more mutants.
Yeah, I was disappointed from that point on, and then they did other little storylines here and there. Secret Invasion was another disappointment too, but that was the jumping of the shark, was saying that Skrulls been infiltrating everything since a certain period. So the Electra that you see was a Skrull. Really? Get the fuck out of my face. That don't even make sense. But people bought it though. People bought into that. That was the Electra from the 80s. They were basically saying that when Electra was revived, that that Electra was a scroll. That made no sense. And they took that from a failed writer, Tom DeFalco. They took Tom DeFalco's ideal and John Byron, and they just reused that. I don't know if you're familiar with I mean, if you old school Marvel, that was the basis of Elisa Masters. When Elisa Masters got married to Johnny Storm back in the John Byron, because I'm a fan of John Byron's Fantastic Four, but John Byron's Alicia Masters got married to Johnny after Secret Wars, the original Secret Wars. And so what ended up happening is when John Byron left the book years later, Tom DeFalco came up with a storyline saying that Alicia Masters was kidnapped by the Skrulls. And so they exchanged her. It was Lala, the Queen of the Skrulls, that was really Alicia Masters. And that was a failure right there.
And once again, yeah, I mean, that just takes her agency from her. Like she can't just be a strong female character who happens to be blind.
Yes.
I mean, you give her her own story by herself, and it's like, okay, she's blonde, she's a girl, but she can do things.
Hmm.
But now, like, let's take that story and fucking twist it on its end, fucking 6 times. I mean, and I understand that in some ways, like, that's just part of comic book tropes. Like, you do weird shit because, like, comic books are full of weird fucking storylines. But it's like, can't we for goddamn once just have one character do something based on their own thoughts that they wanted to do.
And that's the thing. That was the part exactly, and that was the thing with Elektra. So that was Secret Invasion, though. But that goes back to the original point. They were saying that all this out of character stuff was all erased because of Secret Invasion. So they did that retone. Then Marvel turned around, and you know this because you and Johnny follow more than I do.
Oh yeah, the retcons just
The
fucking kill
recons
me,
didn't
man.
make sense. And then when Civil War, and then the Secret Invasion, the Illuminati, the Illuminati going and interfering after the Kree, because it don't make sense. Anybody that, and I read both generations. I read years of Marvel. When they said they had the Illuminati after the Kree Skrull Wars, and that Tony and all of them was manipulating events from that point on up until the day, that just made no sense because it didn't go with those stories for years at a time. It didn't go with certain stories, so some of it just didn't make sense. And so when they kept reconning it like DC did, DC's dumb. So I could even get into them. What DC would do is just end everything and just start it over. That's just DC's answer to their solution. They have convoluted
Yeah.
stories like they just end it. But
Sorry, we fucked up.
so we end it. But Marvel, on the other hand, they try to insert new histories to the characters, which makes no sense. That's why I had to stop reading Marvel because it just didn't make sense. And like you said, comic books characters, how can you just can't say a character just made a decision or they evolved? Why do you make it to? And remember, One More Day, that was a failure too. Don't get me started with One More
Oh
Day.
god, oh god.
Yeah,
Ah, I don't even like that character, but I'm still like, why the fuck did they do
so
that?
so they do stupid things with the comic books all the time, and I just think this is Marvel's way now in Disney with making this is where they're gonna fail at though, Scorp, and you know this. Avengers, as much I love Avengers, I do love Avengers. I followed Avengers ever since I was young. Avengers is not that kind of team like the X-Men where they're hella popular. Disney is about to make a mistake because the Avenger movies are doing well, but that doesn't mean it's going to translate to comic book uh, sales. I've never known for the Avengers to surpass the X-Men books. Never. I've never known for that. And so they're trying to make Avengers into more X-Men-ish type characters, and they're not. They just would never that. They're not Justice League. They're not.
It's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing, but they're trying to do that. If you notice with the animation, with the comic books, with making Tony Stark be more. In fact, I'm gonna just be, and this is the thing too for anybody that follow Marvel. Tony was never smarter than Reed Richards, by the way. He was never smarter than Reed Richards or Hank Pym. But they're trying to
No,
say
no.
now that Tony is brand because he was a weapons maker, and I think I was telling Crossfire this a while back is that Tony Stark in the comic books, if you follow Marvel, Tony Stark was just a weapons, but he was a brilliant weapons maker, but he was not no major scientist like Reed Richards could do anything, man. I can't even lie. Reed Richards like I don't know. Reed Richards was
I remember I've got comics from the early 2000s where Reed Richards swapped bodies with Doctor Doom and he rewrote the world in his own image just like based on a whim. There's this whole thing where it's like, and don't get me wrong, like this is some of the worst comics that like have ever come out, but there was this whole thing where Doctor Doom embraced magic in in terms of trying to beat the Fantastic Four, and Doctor Doom like he killed the girl he only loved in return for trading her soul for magic, and he took that magic and used it to try and beat the Fantastic Four, and like he tortured Ben Grimm and like chipped pieces of rock off him, and then Reed Richards had to learn magic just to try and beat this guy, and they ended up swapping bodies because of the Celestials. Like it got really fucked up. Like it was some weird fucking comics. But even back then, it's like Reed Richards was trying to like rewrite the world, but
Reed could do anything, man. He's the most. But I don't even know his limits, man. I don't know the limits of his intelligence. But Reed Richards is like the smartest Marvel character in that
yeah,
universe.
it's like Reed Richards would like go to Vegas and try and rewrite the world. Meanwhile, fucking Tony Stark would fucking be there on the floor with fucking Charlie Sheen like eating a cheeseburger.
And making weapons. Because that's the
Yeah.
only thing Tony could do is make weapons. Reed Richards, man, he could go into dimensions. He goes to alien worlds. This man has figured out how to beat Galactus of all people. Come on. He could be. I mean, come on. He's messed Galactus. He's kept him from eating up the planet. So come on. He could read alien technology. That's just how brilliant Reed Richards is. I've read books where Reed Richards have literally knew how to re-engineer reverse engineer alien technology, literally. Reed Richards. I mean, who does that? So But that's like I said, I guess I guess they weren't thinking that far ahead. But
Okay, hold on a second. Before we get too far, and I love talking Fantastic Four, even though Fantastic Four has been ruined like 1,000 times over. And before you tell me that Fantastic Four hasn't been ruined 1,000 times over, let me read you this little fucking genius being of the history of Fantastic Four. Um, if I can find it. Oh yeah, here we go. Fantastic Four just relaunched a number 1 last year, and now they think they deserve to end it at number 645 in April. And I say, fuck comics, but that's not even the beginning. I mean, I talked to a good friend who dropped Fantastic Four back in number 588 in 2011, which was a fake final issue. If you remember, a few months later, this book came back as FF and ran until number 11. The next issue was Fantastic Four number 600, another fake issue, and was given another fake final issue at number 611 near the end of 2012, so it could relaunch with another number 1 as part of Marvel now. Like, Fantastic Four has been nothing but fucked by Marvel for a long, 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 long time. I mean, and there's this whole conspiracy theory about how Marvel is gonna fuck Fantastic Four because of the movie and because they don't own the rights. And I don't think that's true because they fucked Fantastic Four for a long time.
I agree with that. I have to say I heard the conspiracy theories and I was talking to a friend on social media about this last year about first of all, you just break the Fantastic Four down, and you follow Fantastic Four, and most of the audiences listen to shows. They don't have to, and if they don't believe me, they could go to links and they could look this up. You don't have to read the comic book. Fantastic Four book was a hot book in the '60s. But the Fantastic Four was a hot book in the 1960s when Lee and Kirby did it. When Kirby left the book went downhill. I read every single issue of the Fantastic Four from 1960 I mean 61, I'm sorry, all the way to 1977. I read those issues straight up, collected them and massed different issues. When Lee left the book, when Lee was on the book without Kirby, it got weaker. You could see some issues with just flat, reused, recycled stories. And John Byron took over the book, and I read all of the John Byron, which I recommend you guys all read. Those were the best issues ever. He kind of revived the Fantastic Four again. Then after he left the book, it hasn't been the same. So Fantastic Four, because you had the X-Men and you had different, again, you had the resurgence of X-Men, Daredevil, Spider-Man, all these different characters. It really pushed them to the back. 2000s came, I read some issues of Fantastic Four off and on. They just couldn't find a place, I think, with the core audience. And I think Marvel just didn't know how to really use them no more. I think Brian Bendis and them, because this is a new generation of writers, by the way.
Oh yeah, right. Because I mean, because you have to pay attention to who's writing these books.
Hmm. These are people who were not really like when you had Marv Wolfman do Fantastic Four back in the '70s. He was a fan of the Fantastic Four because he grew up with them. He went to Kirby's house. He liked them. But Gary Conway, he was a fan of the Fantastic Four books. But then these are people that's closer to our age bracket or a little older, where they are not really didn't grow up on liking the Fantastic Four. So they're going to utilize characters like Miss Marvel, Luke Cage, Spider Man, Daredevil, some of these other characters for their books. So that's why you see them blown up more so than the Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four have been dead to me since really the mid '70s though, because if you really look at it, they had their last run when John Byron took over the book. Tom
Dude,
DeFalco.
I'm not gonna lie, man. And we still know more than the people who are making the movie now. And we gotta talk about the movie now.
Okay.
I mean, you saw the trailer, right? What are your thoughts?
Oh, I can think you kind of. I think if you've been in my California guy group, I'm gonna plug it. I did a video on it too. The Fantastic Four movie. I'm because I'm such a big Fantastic Four fan. Is gonna be.
That's like your favorite comic ever, right?
It is. It is. It's my favorite team. My favorite comic era. And that movie is going to be a failure. It's not because of the team itself. I don't like the modifications of the characters. I think it's unfaithful to the source material. It's a slap at Stan Lee. I know Stan Lee. People say that embraced it. Yes, Stan embraced it, but deep down he doesn't like what he's seeing. It's so unfaithful. This is a failure. I expect it to flop.
But Kate Mara's pretty hot, right?
Yeah, that's the only good thing about it. But
How many jokes are there gonna be about how Kate Mara is like naked because she's an invisible girl?
I don't plan on
Oh,
seeing the movie. I know the movie, and I heard people praising it online. A lot of people they were praising it, say they like what they see, but maybe it's good for people who don't read the books. But I have no plans of seeing that. That's going to be complete garbage. I don't like none of what I saw, none of it. So it's going to be a failure. They should let the rights go back to Marvel Studios. If you don't know what to do with the characters, don't be greedy. Let them.
you know what's fucking sad? Is everyone talks about how Josh Trank is so good at comics or whatever. Like he did fucking fuck. What was that movie?
Chronicle.
Chronicle. Who was the other guy who did Chronicle? Was it Josh Trank?
Landis, I think Mike Landis did.
Oh no, Landis. Landis is the guy who knows his comics.
Yeah, he did.
Like Landis did all those videos about Superman and shit. Like Landis is the guy who knows his comics.
That movie, Josh Trank knows nothing about comics, and I didn't understand altering it. And few people have argued with me and said, "Well, the Fantastic Four is dated." And here's to people, the detractors that say,
Whoa! You want to talk about dated? Fucking Fantastic Four is not a very complicated property.
yeah, I
It's
know,
it's science fiction plus family.
but
It ain't that hard.
that's what I said. I said what you said. You know what's so funny, Scorp, that people say that about the Fantastic Four, and this is the cough cough K1, cough cough to some other people that told me that.
Cough
Yeah, because
K1.
they've told me that it's dated. Iron Man was dated. The Avengers is dated. Thor was dated. The Hulk was dated. All those characters were dated, and they were able to modernize them. So, what was hard about the Fantastic Four? Iron Man was the most dated character in Marvel. In fact, and Scrub, you could say this: Iron Man was the most non-interesting character before the Iron Man 1 movie, way before the movie.
Dude, fucking, I can't believe what the fuck that they made a movie out of Iron Man, let alone a good one. Let alone they gave RDJ a career. I mean, don't get me wrong, I loved RDJ and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I thought he really came back alive during that movie, but I never would have imagined that he'd launch a Marvel career based off that.
That yeah, the weakest character, and I know people gonna give me shit and you shit, maybe the general audience, but anybody that follows Marvel and anybody that's a Marvel comic fanboy knows that Iron Man comics were the weakest comics in is stable. His comic books, and I've worked in the shop before, books never sold nothing. His books never sold anything. Actually, the most popular members of the Avengers was actually Thor and Captain America, but an Avenger team itself. Only thing I knew about Iron Man when I was reading Marvel was that he would give weapons to everybody. He always created some sort of weapons for different Marvel characters, or he'd come up with a ray gun for the Hulk, or he'd create something for the character. Because I'm a Captain America fan. That's who my favorite character is out of the.
Whoa! You like Captain America?
I love Cap. I love.
Well, how do you feel about Falcon America?
You know what, Falcon. I mean,
Dude,
people.
I read Falcon America in Uncanny Avengers. I don't like him.
I don't.
I'll
You know
be
what? I
honest,
don't
I
think
don't
so
like him.
either. It's not a good idea to do that. Falcon, but see, Falcon was always to me more uninteresting. He was always to me just he has the sidekick status. If you read Captain America and Falcon, I read a lot of their incarnations, and Falcon, he just to me was always the weakest character in the stable to me, and that's just only my opinion. When it came to Falcon, yes, he has some cool stories. Yes, he's had this particular story, but Falcon was always weak. He did some good storylines with the. I like the Secret Empire storyline where Falcon was in that, but I'm just not feeling Falcon in that
Yeah,
manner.
but let's be honest right here. Let's be honest right now. I mean, you want to talk about Falcon America? He's had some decent comic storylines, but as far as the movie goes, fuck that.
Oh, he was garbage. He was garbage. Falcon was garbage in the movie. That's the example of just putting a. But again, Falcon, Anthony Mackie's Falcon, just like Don Cheadle's Rhodey, was weak, man. Those were the weakest characters, and they were sidekicks. In fact,
Yeah, it was Black. it was black exploitation, really.
Not really exactly token black exploitation.
Yeah, look, let's find a black guy and put him in this movie,
But
cause
did
we
Falcon
don't.
make sense to you? We ask you this. You know a lot about Falcon and Captain America yourself. Did Falcon really make sense in Winter Soldier? No, he didn't make sense.
No, he
He just
didn't.
he
Fucking,
came out of
he
no.
wasn't even the coolest part of. I mean, the whole point of having Winter Soldier was having the Winter Soldier was having Bucky. Well, it's got goddamn shit to do with fucking Captain America, let alone fucking Falcon.
Yeah, Falcon. It's like he just was there. He just out the blue. In fact, if Falcon was a little bit more interested in the comic books, even though his backstory kind of got retoned by Englehart, which I always give the middle finger to Englehart because he retoned it, which was stupid. I don't know if you're familiar with what Englehart did, was he made it to where Skull.
Yeah, I get it. You don't like him. It's cool, man.
Now I love Englehart. Don't
No,
get,
no, 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 no. It's cool, man.
but
I
no, in
mean,
the
I,
movie though,
I hate certain fucking writers too. You don't
yeah,
like that guy.
no,
That's cool.
let's get
It's
back to
okay.
this real quick with Winter Soldier. How is it that Falcon on a whim just want to be his sidekick? And he could, come on. He just out the blue. He wants to be, okay, I'm just down with you, and I got these wings. And it just didn't make sense. His role, it's like they just shoehorned Falcon into the movie, and it just didn't make really too much sense.
And after they shoehorn him into the movie, they're gonna shoehorn him into the comics.
We're far more organic in the comics, man. That was, you know what? That was epic. His first appearance actually in the books was the fire part. It was organic, but he very first appeared in Captain America. I think that's where Cap and Skull exchanged bodies, which that was one of the best Captain America stories ever. When he had the cosmic cube, and Cap and Skull switched bodies.
Yeah, but also remember, it's like when people switch bodies in our day and age, it's not a big deal.
No, no, because we've seen it. Well, it is weird, and it don't make sense. But those storylines work for then, and it don't work for the day. So if you switch bodies, like I said, when Cap did it, I think Doom, like you just said earlier, Doom and Reed did it in the late '90s. Doom and Reed did it in the
Yeah, I mean, Doom and Reed did it a fucking thousand times, and they're gonna do it again, apparently.
yeah, they've
Fucking
switched bodies.
Sabretooth is an uncanny X-Men now.
You know who else switched bodies too? Don't you laugh at this. Thor and Loki actually switched bodies also. I've read a storyline where they actually switched bodies also. Loki was in Thor's body and he was causing trouble on Earth.
I'm Thor. I'm not worthy to wield the hammer. Fucking so someone else has to wield it, and now it's a girl who has to wield it.
Yeah, the movies, yeah, I like you said back, yeah, the original thing is the movies is setting the tone because, like you said, let's go back to the Marvel Cinematic Universe real quick. I'm gonna delve deep into it. When you look at Marvel's history for their movies, the basis of their movies is like with Captain America. Again, like we said earlier, he was the founding member of the Howling Commandos. Then you had the Skull, the founding member of Hydra. So that's the basis of
Right.
their movies right there. And then you have SSR, I believe is called. I think that predates Shield supposedly. And then Howard Stark, which he's replacing Tony. Because remember, Tony created Shield. A lot of people don't even know Tony Stark actually founded Shield, but they make it in the movie universe where Howard Stark is the founder, and then you got English Jarvis that it's just kind of funny that was in the 40s. And it's just they're trying to make sense of everything, which like me and you said earlier, comic books don't never make sense, but they're
No.
now in the movies trying to make it make sense to people, like, okay, this is ABCD, this happened.
He has one, two, three.
Yeah, so they're trying to make it make sense even in the Ant-Man movie, because they got an Ant-Man prequel comic. I was reading it on one of these, I think, comic resources. They had the preview comic to the Ant-Man movie, and they had Agent Carter old up in that, and she's telling Ant-Man in the prequel like to go on this mission and stuff. So they're making it. The movies are making it to where, okay, Shield was just involved in everything, whereas in the comic book universe, what made Avengers and these characters feel special was there was no organization over them. Now that's my complaint with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Stop trying to stop trying to have everything make sense in this world. Let some things kind of be organic. So, you're making Ant-Man be what, like a Shield member. So it just, some things don't really make a lot of sense. So I do agree with you about Ant-Man. Some things is blasphemous with the movie, but I just accept it as it is no now.
Fucking Marvel is just blowing the water out of DC.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. They always blowing the water out of DC though. I even have to say that they always blowing the water out of DC since the '60s. Man, Marvel has been killing DC, and I like DC, but Marvel has been killing DC as far as comics, stories, and sales. Every since
And girls and transsexuals and blah 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 blah. All of
DC
it.
have nothing on them. I mean, and Marvel got more titles. Even if you don't like Spider-Man per se, you can read Tomb of Dracula, or you can read this title, Ghost Rider. You don't have to read per se read
Or
Spider.
I mean, even right now, fucking Spider-Man 2099 is written by Peter David. I'm serious, man. Peter David is one of the best writers of comic books right now, and he's doing Spider-Man 2099, and it's up to around issue 8 or 9 or so, and I mean, and it's kind of stupid because they talk about what the shock, and they pretend like it's modern, but I mean, it's better than a lot of fucking Wonder Woman making out with Superman.
Well, DC. Well, here's the weakness with DC. DC never was able to get their groove back in the '60s, '70s, '80s, '90s. And so, I don't get it. Some DC books were good. You know what's good about DC is their side characters. A lot of their side characters are really good. Like again, Green Arrow. I'm not a Flash reader, so I can't
I
take
mean, oh, I mean, Green Arrow's not a side character. I'm Red Arrow.
Red Arrow, Green Arrow, Green Lantern because I'm a Green Lantern person. Green Lantern books were decent. Um, Suicide Squad books used to be sort of good back then, off and on. I know they're making that into a movie,
Right? Yeah. I get that. They already casted Harley Quinn and Jared
which
Leto's
is
gonna be
different from
Joker.
that's more new incarnation. So I mean, they got good stuff, but again, Marvel's always killed them when they had their man. Marvel got everything. And I'm not trying to make this a anti DC bashing, but Marvel has better comics. They know how to write comics, even when they're at their weakest moment. Marvel still sort of surpasses DC as far as content. One thing that Marvel always had, even in their films and their comic books, is doing it, and even animation, is the shared universe concept. I always thought that was the good thing for Marvel. You could read one Marvel book. But what turned me into a huge Marvel fan was I could read one Marvel book and I didn't know who the hell that character was, but I go to the comic book shop and race to see what book is that. You remember back then they had a little box. They said read Daredevil. You read like read the
Yeah.
Spider-Man book, and they said read Daredevil. They had the editor said read Daredevil 226 or read Avengers 485 to see what's going on. And so that's what turns you into a Marvel. That hooks you right there. It's like crack.
Yeah, back then they were actually proud of the fact that they had a long, storied publication history. But we're at about the hour mark now, so thanks to everyone for listening, and make sure to check back for more.